the KMNN studios, this is the Kids Morning News Network. Good morning, everybody. It's August 19th, 2024. Welcome to the Kids Morning News Network podcast. I'm Alex in the KMNN studio in New York. It is National Soft Ice Cream Day. 90 years ago, over Memorial Day weekend in 1934, an ice cream truck owner named Frank Carvel got a flat tire just outside New York City. His ice cream was melting, so he parked the truck and started selling his kind of soft ice cream as fast as he could to people driving by. They loved it, and he sold out, which taught Frank Carvel two things. First, he needed a store, not a truck. And second, he needed all his ice cream to be soft. Well, within a couple of years, he'd invented a soft serve machine and opened his first store right where his truck had broken down. And soft serve was born. So, if you can, help yourself to a cone today and say a thanks to Frank. It's not Groundhog Day, but there is a groundhog in the news today. He gave people playing an arcade game in Hollidaysburg, Pennsylvania, a big surprise. The game was one of those with a claw. You know, you drop the claw down and try to pick up a stuffed animal. Only one of the animals in this game wasn't stuffed. It was a real live groundhog. The employees at the shop, it was a Custard shop, called the owners of the game to open it up and set the critter free. But they decided a live animal was just a little too much to handle, so the next call went to the police, who called the game warden. Finally, the groundhog, now called Colonel Custard after the shop he showed up in, was free, running off into a nearby field. Seems like a lot of trouble. They could have just dropped the claw and sent him down the chute. So out of curiosity, does it matter if he saw his shadow or not? 104 years ago, August 18th, 1920, the 19th Amendment to the Constitution went into effect. It gave women the right to vote. Yes, believe it or not, before 1920, women couldn't vote. But that wasn't actually the Constitution's fault. When the Constitution was written in the 1700s, it didn't say anything about women being able to vote or not. It left that question up to the states. And actually, before the Revolution, women were allowed to vote in several colonies. But after the colonies became states and could decide their own futures, the guys in charge wrote laws saying that women could not vote. Now, there were plenty of women and some men who weren't happy about this, and by 1848, they'd started a movement to change things. As the country grew westward and new states were created, women could argue that they should be allowed the right to vote in those new states with new laws. And in a couple places that actually worked. The movement really started picking up steam in the early 1900s. An amendment, or an add-on, to the Constitution was proposed in the summer of 19. It took until August of the next year for it to be ratified by 36 states, which was enough for it to become a law and give women the right to vote. The last state to ratify it was Mississippi in 1984. Yep, 64 years later. Things in politics move kinda slowly a lot of the time. It's riddle time. Last Wednesday's riddle, I was not here on Friday, was, I have many keys, but I can't open any locks. What am I? Answer, a piano. Today's riddle is, where is the only place that today comes before yesterday? Where is the only place that today comes before yesterday? I'll give you the answer on Wednesday, but make sure you follow or subscribe to the Kids Morning News Network on your podcast player so you don't miss it. What would you like for dinner tonight? Can I interest you in a 4,000-year-old stew? Actually, now I can. A bunch of clay tablets, thin blocks from an archaeological site in the Middle East, sat quietly in a collection at Yale University for decades. They were covered in ancient writing that no one could read. Whatever messages they had were lost to time. Until the early 1980s, when a researcher finally cracked the code and found that the tablets were an ancient cookbook. They describe how to make stews and a soup. These are the only recipes ever found from ancient Babylonia, which today is an area that Iraq, Syria, and Iran occupy. Another group of researchers took the recipes and began figuring out what they were. That's because words for ingredients didn't match anything people say today, so there was a lot of experimentation, but eventually they were able to actually cook some of the dishes from the tablets. And one of them was a lamb stew with onions, garlic, and beets, which turn it red. According to the researchers, it's really very good. So if future researchers dig up your kitchen, what will they find? Are there any foods you like that would be confusing to someone from the future? In the weather today, rain is moving east from the Front Range of the Rockies. It will also be rainy in the northeast. It's going to be hot in Texas, cooler along the Pacific coastline. Should be a clear day for most of the country. Well, that's the show. Thank you very much for listening. If you're new here, or even if you're not, make sure you follow or subscribe to the Kids Morning News Network on your podcast app, podcast player, smart device, whatever you use to listen to the podcast. I'll be back on Wednesday, and I hope you are too. From the KMNN Newsroom, this is Alex signing off.